3 years ago, I made a video warning about the dangers of a law that was about to be passed here in California called the Age-Appropriate Design Code Act, which would force most, if not all, websites on the internet to verify the age of users with a reasonable level of certainty in order to protect children from seeing potentially harmful things, like any kind of bro podcast, I assume.
What would you do if I couldn't cook?
You'd be single.
Can you cook?
That's irrelevant.
No. Can you cook, though?
I mean, can you fight? Let's ask pointless questions.
How is it a pointless question? I'm trying to get to know you.
Because that's your job.
What's my job?
To make sandwiches.
Did he actually just say, my job is to make sandwiches?
How am I going to fight off the intruders if you don't make sandwiches? I need sustenance.
Protecting children sounds all well and good until you realize that forcing everyone, adults included, to verify their identity to access the internet presents some major problems, particularly privacy problems, since we would need to hand over our personal identifying information to probably a porn monopoly, since the biggest proponent of laws like this is MindGeek, the owner of sites like Pornhub, RedTube, YouPorn, and AgeID, one of the biggest age verification companies currently running. Shockingly, my video did not convince Gavin Newsom to veto this bill, and so he did sign it into law in September of 2022. Luckily, our technocratic overlords stepped in to help. NetChoice, a trade group representing Google, Meta, and dozens of other online corporations, got an injunction preventing the law from taking effect on the grounds that it might violate the First Amendment. Another injunction upheld parts of the first one, and a third one earlier this year seems to have put the final nail in this law's coffin, which is great news for those of us who enjoy free speech, privacy, and parents who mind their own children so that the rest of us can freely adult like adults do. Unfortunately, believe it or not, some other countries don't have as clear and strong free speech protections as the United States does. And so the original law that the Age-Appropriate Design Code Act was modeled upon, the UK's Online Safety Act, partially goes into effect later this month. The EU has introduced similar recommendations and is launching an age verification app for 5 test countries. Now, even sites that have a pretty solid history of valuing privacy and free speech, like Blue Sky, are forced to introduce age verification for everyone in those countries, explaining that users will either have to make do with a sanitized, child-friendly version of their Blue Sky timeline, or else hand over their personal information to Kids Web Services, a product made by Epic Games, a company that did have 808,000 accounts hacked back in 2016 and also had another vulnerability leading to hacking of accounts in 2019. While people seem to understand that Blue Sky is simply following the law here, they're pretty annoyed that management is parodying the politicians who passed these awful laws, asserting that this new ID verification will happen as Blue Sky continues to balance safety with privacy and free expression with civility. As pointed out by Eric Goldman, Associate Dean for Research and Professor at Santa Clara Law, it is a false dichotomy to characterize mandatory age authentication as a trade-off between free expression and children's safety/privacy. Age authentication hurts both. And he should know because back in April of this year, he published a massive 60-page paper in Stanford Technology Law Review arguing precisely that. In the segregate and suppress approach to regulating child safety online, Goldman points out that while offline age verification is pretty simple, once you move it online, it becomes incredibly complicated and dangerous in ways that many people may find counterintuitive. He patiently goes through the most popular options for age verification and explains why there is no single option that is more or less bad. They're all bad in unique ways. For instance, establishing a governmental digital ID would give a state unimaginable power to surveil citizens online, which can have extremely negative effects if, for example, your country gets taken over by fascists who want to strip the citizenship of people who criticize them on social media. Visual inspections, where you turn on your camera and an algorithm decides how old you are, those have high error rates that will lead to unfair treatment of people, especially those who are close to the age of 18 or whichever age is being protected, and discriminates against people without access to good cameras or those with visual impairments. Also, how do you know the person the camera is pointing at is the same one planning to access the website? You don't. Goldman also mentions an interesting possible consequence. With more hoops to jump through to access certain publications online, more people will simply give up and bounce. So traffic to the publication, and therefore the publication's revenue, will drop. At the same time, that publication now has a whole bunch of data on their remaining users, which it could theoretically collect and sell to data miners, an incentive that puts everybody at risk. All of that, and this is just a small sample. Like I said, it's a huge paper. It is available in full for free online. Links to everything are in the transcript at patreon.com/Rebecca or skepchick.org or link below. All of that is just a problem with the segregate part of segregate and suppress laws. Those are issues regarding how corporations pick and choose who gets to access the information. Goldman also goes into the problems with the suppression part, meaning what content is going to be put behind this age check and how is it going to be kept secret from children. Vague language in the written law, it's bad enough, but that combines with an inability for one-size-fits-all regulations to operate without discriminating against some populations. And together, you just end up with a really big mess. Obviously, I find the privacy issues under an authoritarian government to be the worst outcome of these laws, but there are still at least two major negative impacts to children. First is the idea that the government or even a child's parent always knows what's best for that child. Access to the internet has helped kids escape abusive situations in their home or supported them in homophobic, misogynistic, or theocratic environments where they otherwise have no way to learn about the outside world. Just ask the kids that grew up in Westboro Baptist Church. And perhaps just as bad, suppressing all adult content until a person hits some random age, like 16 or 18, at which point you just let them have everything, denies a child the ability to develop important online skills that people need today, like skeptically evaluating the things that they see online. Goldman quotes social media researcher Donna Boyd, who said, "To raise children who can function in our complex world, we need to teach them how to cross the digital street safely. Imagine keeping a kid inside a house until they're 18 and then shoving them out the door next to a highway." Goldman concludes with proof that the flaws he brings up and the warnings for where this can all lead aren't just fantasyland. Some segregate and suppress proponents are intentionally using segregate and suppress laws to push their censorship agendas. For example, Russell Vogt, an architect of Project 2025 and President Trump's director of the Office of Management and Budget, admitted that age authentication mandates would intentionally serve as a backdoor way to censor pornography. And you already know by now, if you've seen my past videos, they're not going to stop with censoring pornography. They're going to censor trans care, women's health services, resources for kids in abusive homes. These protect the children laws do nothing of the sort. They only enable a surveillance state that has the ability to censor wrongthink, which hurts children and adults alike. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. If you loved the video, please subscribe. And if you think the world could use more videos like this and you happen to have a few bucks laying around, head to patreon.com/Rebecca and join an awesome community of nerds like the people whose names you see on the screen right now. Thanks.